Chapter 1. Somewhere in Space. "Mom, I can't believe you would do this to me!" Cullen White was panic-stricken. Every sense organ he had was flooding his consciousness with unfamiliar and frightening information. His eyes reported in with a chaotic melange of colors. There was not a single straight line in his visual field. His hearing had somehow expanded its frequency range, so he heard sounds lower than 20 cycles and higher than 20,000. A lot lower and a lot higher. But he had no frame of reference with which to interpret them. His olfactory system was assaulted with innumerable unfamiliar odors. His skin was reporting in with extreme versions of the normal touch sensations, but also with information about the entire electromagnetic spectrum, triggered by the photons that bombarded it. And that didn't account for the information coming in from sensory organs he was previously unaware that he possessed. There was an overwhelming amount of information from the magnetosphere, from some part of his body he had never heard from before. There were literally dozens of other sensory systems telling him about oddities that surrounded him. Shortcuts to other universes in the multiverse, great sucking sounds, for want of a better word, from black holes and white holes, shortcuts through space and time, and much more that he did not recognize. "Oh, Cullen," said his mother, "you do go on. You must be exposed to all these things to make a start at learning the true nature of the realities that surround you. I assure you, you are in no danger. All this is your genetic heritage, which you got from the Dagda, your grandfather, through me. I have the same physical makeup as you and my father, mutatis mutandi. We, of course, possess different sex organs because even at this level, we're paired creatures who procreate sexually. But otherwise, we are equipped to experience the same environmental information. Do as I say, ignore most of the bewildering stuff, and focus on your magnetic inputs. Much of our navigation and actual movement around the universes is based on the magnetic properties of space and time. Look down there. Can't you see the aurora australis, the so-called southern lights? I mean, see, as an ordinary human would see. Now, can you see that those lights are actually caused by particles traveling through the sun's magnetosphere and forcing atmospheric molecules to give off light? Can you see the clusters of particles? Can you see the magnetic ether that guides them? Mom, I can't make any sense of what I'm seeing. Cullen, don't be a baby. Stop whining. Some god in training you are. Why did you drag me out here? Cullen, you have much to learn. You have to start somewhere. This is just a little sample excursion. I promised my friend Darg I would bring her chocolate-covered liquid center cherries and marijuana when my father banished her and her kind to Aldebaran 1. A little taste of the old life the Fomorians were living on Earth, you know. You know I don't hold grudges. Mom, Aldebaran is 65 light-years from the sun. How can we possibly travel that far? Ah, now you're making sense, sweetheart. That is just my point. Without all this extra human information, it would be impossible. That's why you need to understand your expanded sensoria. I'm glad you're beginning to see reason. Now, calm down, trust me. You're as safe as a babe in its mother's arms. Very funny, Mother. Why didn't you bring Greg out here? He couldn't live out here, Cullen, you know that. How do you know I can? A mother knows these things, dear. Needless to say, the whimpering and whining continued for the duration of the trip. Fortunately for Cullen, it was a comparatively quick trip. Suddenly, they were standing in a forest clearing of sorts. The trees were quite weird, but they were definitely in the vegetable kingdom. From behind one of the tree things, Darg peeked out. "Bridget," she exclaimed. "Hello, my dear. I would like to introduce you to my son, Cullen." "Pleased to meet you," said Darg. "What are you guys doing out here?" "Why, I've brought you a gift, dearest. I have a couple of pounds of genuine earth marijuana and a case of chocolate-covered cherries. I've also brought you a suitcase with some clothing I don't use anymore. I thought you and Sequel might enjoy it." You came all the way out here to bring me chocolate, marijuana, and your used clothes. No, I came all the way out here to teach my son how to navigate in the multiverse. The rest of it was just an excuse to stop and see your lovely face. Now, Cullen, say goodbye to the nice lady, take my hand, and we will move along. Some of the other Fomorians might be holding a grudge. Oh, no, Bridget, we are not like that. We understand that sometimes one wins and sometimes one loses. Immortals have no choice but to pick up the pieces and start again. You should know better than anyone. Sequel would love to see you. We have a little girl, you know. Darg, really, I must see her. Come along. Let me carry the marijuana. Brid and Cullen followed Darg out of the clearing to a rough Fomorian encampment. The clearing they had been in was not a natural clearing. It was the result of Fomorian loggers. They had created temporary housing that looked like log cabins, except the colors were somewhat off. Darg led them to a cabin, and they all went in. "Sequel!" cried Darg. "Look who came to visit!" "Bridget!" exclaimed Sequel. "Is the doctor going to let us return to Earth?" "I'm afraid not, Sequel. At least, not yet. But I keep whispering in his ear. He's not as forgiving as I. Darg, I would love to see your daughter." "Elipha!" Darg called out. "Come here, sweetheart. There are people I want you to meet." An extremely attractive young woman entered the room. She looked a lot like her mother, which is to say she was very attractive indeed, but she had the fresh, nubile look of a young woman of about 17. "Mother," asked Cullen, "the Fomorians only came here a few months ago. How could Darg's child have grown so much?" "Cullen, you have much to learn about time. Trust me, either I or your grandfather will explain it all to you sooner or later." But it was too late. Cullen had been struck by the lightning bolt, as the French say. He already had a regrettable tendency to fall in love with beautiful young women. He got that, his mother said, from his grandfather. "Elipha, I am very pleased to meet you." Elipha batted her eyelashes, some things are constant between universes, and said, "I am pleased to meet you as well, Cullen." He moved as if to shake her hand, but when her hand was in his, he clasped the other hand over it and squeezed gently. Elipha blushed and turned her head away, but she did not take her hand back. Cullen slowly released her hand and smiled at her. Elipha smiled back, her piercing blue eyes staring straight at him as if her whole soul was open to him. He kissed her hand and he said, "We really do have to leave now, Mom. If I stay any longer, I'm not leaving at all." Brid smiled at him. It's a wise man who knows when to say when. She smiled at Darg and Sequel. "I'm guessing Cullen is going to want to do some solo navigation. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him again." They walked to the clearing in silence. "So," said Cullen, "let me try to do it this time." Brid smiled. Incentive is everything in education. "Well, first you get a magnetic fix. Do you see the solar wind from Aldebaran?" "Yes." "The wind is blowing away from the sun, right?" "Yes." "That's the direction you want to go. I'll hold on to you, and if we get lost, I'll know how to get back to Earth. At that point, you hold on to me, okay?" "Right." Cullen focused on the solar wind, and shrinking himself and his mother through successively smaller universes, traveled with the tremendous speed of the solar wind in the universe they came from compared to that of the current universe. When they reached Earth in this universe, Cullen enlarged himself and his mother up to the universe where they started. The universes share a common mapping, and the shrink-grow time is really traveling at right angles, as it were, to the nested universes. The right angle jumps take 0 time. Now you know how to travel 60 light years in a couple of subjective seconds. Why don't you close your eyes and try it right now? You can't do it, right? Now you know how useful it is to be a god, or at least semi-divine. They landed in Brid's living room in Princeton. Brid was thrilled. "Cullen, honey, you did it. All by yourself. Nothing like a little incentive." "Oh, I left my keys there." What? My keys. I left them on Aldebaran 1. No, you didn't, honey. They're in your right pocket. Oh, you're right, Mom. Look at that. Culain, you don't need an excuse to go back. But be careful. Sequel was your grandfather's enemy for a long time, and it's hard for me to believe that he's entirely happy about how things have turned out for him. Elitha is a lovely woman. Remember that she is only a few months old. In some ways, she's still a child and maybe a bit selfish. She would love to come here, but more to the point, Darg and Sequel would love to find a way back, and they're both untrustworthy. The Dagda entered the room. Welcome back, travelers. Where did you go? Brid told him, and he frowned. And they have a little baby? The Dagda asked. Yes. They've got her to about 17 years physically. Gorgeous. You would fall for her in a heartbeat. I, said the Dagda sternly, I'm not a pushover, even if my horny grandson is. Culain, he said, I can see how much damage she did to you from here. That's how one looks when one falls head over heels. My advice, grandson, is enjoy your youth. If you brought the child here, she could stay for a while. Elitha is a goddess. No mortal woman can compare. Except Eleanor, mumbled Culain. Careful, Culain. If you hurt my friends, I'll be angry. Grandfather, I will do nothing wrong. But I can't help how I feel. Eleanor taught me everything I know about having sex, and I've never slept with anyone else like her. I still say there's nothing like a goddess. Right, Brid? If you think you're getting me into this discussion, Father, think again. A person has a right to her privacy, Brid said modestly. I want you to know that Culain navigated the trip home entirely on his own. Wonderful, said the Dagda. That's my grandson.